Welcome to Actual Scale Modelling. This is part 6 of Academy's US Navy Fighter F-14A. Scale is 148. In this part, I'm going to be working on the canopy and placing on some decals. So let's jump into this and see how well I get on. The first thing I'm going to be doing is placing the decals on the tail stabilizers. The reason why I'm doing this now before fitting is it's just easier to place them on than when the tail stabilizers are in position. So there's two sides to this, and each side has a different decal. Now, I should point out these decals are fairly horrendous. They're very thick, and even with Microsoft, I was having trouble fitting them, so they're not the best. They came off the backing paper absolutely fine, as you would expect with the proper manufactured decal. It's just the thickness of them. They don't sit properly on the model itself, especially when you have a contour on the model that the decal has to conform to. First of all, the underside decals. And if you remember in part 5, if you haven't done so, why don't you go back and watch that one? I said about the wire cuts here that I made a fundamental mistake on it. Here I'm placing a decal on, and I'm putting it on the fuselage itself. This should actually go on the wire catcher. It wasn't until after I put it on I thought, oh, damn it, I've made a mistake here. So there's a couple of ways around it. I could either take them off, painted it on the decal instead of using decal, sorry, or just leaving it on the fuselage and see how well it looks. So that's what I decided to do. So I'll just fast forward this process a little bit. But as I said, this is what I decided to do. I placed all the bars on the fuselage, as you can see there, and then I simply painted in the stripes on the wire catcher in black paint. And I used Revol Aquacolor 07 black gloss for this. It's probably not the ideal, this is me painting it now, but it was the best solution I came up with. And I sort of like the look anyway, even though it's slightly wrong. I can live with it. I know a lot of people won't be able to live with it. But to me, it's a mistake, but I'm happy to just plough on ahead. So it's onto the air brake now, and this fits on the back. If you're having it opened, what I'm going to be doing, you would have to paint the inside. But of course, if you're having it closed up, you don't have to do any of this. You would just place it on top. I've dry fitted it that way and it fits perfectly. So now that I placed in the air brake initially, and now I'm putting in the piston rods to hold it up. There is little raised areas, more so than you see there, for the pistons to sit into. It's a bit difficult to show you while I'm trying to install these because my hands are going to get in the way. But after a bit of dry fitting to check where the contact points are, a little bit of cement, and they were easy enough to fit. And how I went about this was I fitted the pistons first in an upright position, then placed in the air brake, then simply pushed the pistons onto the location point on the air brake with my tweezers. As you can see, they're just guiding it into the little location point to hold them. I can then go back to the wing stabilizers and the other side for the decal, and as you can see there, this decal had actually ripped, so there was a little bit of work to do joining this up. It's a little bit annoying when this happens, but it's not the end of the world as such. Sometimes you may decide to cut a big decal up anyway to make it easier to use while applying it. So there's no difference here apart from it's an uneven edge, but after a little bit of manoeuvring, I was able to fit it into position. If you're going to use your fingers like I'm doing, make sure your fingers are wet, because otherwise you can lift up your decal. I should point that out. The second one went on a lot easier. Once I was able to get the top part in position, it just slid on how it's meant to. Onto the canopy now. Generally I paint these freehand, but the lines on the canopy are so faint. I thought it was better just to mask it off. I don't often mask off canopies. I think it just takes too much time when I can do it freehand and then clean up afterwards. Personal choice again. But this time around, because the markings are so faint, it's better to use a bit of masking tape to get the correct line. And I'm using Tamiya's 5mm masking tape for curves on this one. 2mm would be better, but I couldn't find my 2mm one, so I'm just using the 5. And once it's masked, I'm using River Colour 76 Light Grey to paint in the line. Because the lines are not defined, I've placed on the larger part of the canopy on the model to get my line for the middle section of the canopy. So it's a good idea to do that so that you're not doing it, then the lines are in the wrong position and the whole thing can look out of balance. So I'm just using it as a measuring tool to get my markings straight. And once I've got my initial piece of masking tape on, I can then add the second one to create the masking area. I'm leaving roughly around about a 1mm gap between the tape for the painting. And so once more, it's River Colour 76 Light Grey for the actual painting of the canopy. Next, I'm masking off the area on here and text that has the darker stripe. Now, I wasn't sure whether this should be painted in or not. The photographs I was looking at, some had it in this block colour, some didn't. So I decided just to paint in the darker colour. And for this, I'm using River Colour 74 Gunship Grey. Next, I can fit the tail stabilizers, and as you can see, the location points for these are quite large. These went in without any problem. There was no need for any filler in the root area. They conformed to the contours of that shape very nicely. And once my paint's dry, I can then take off the masking tape. And as you can see there, I've got no paint bleeds. I've got a nice crisp straight line. With the canopy, I had a little bit of paint bleed. But that was easy enough sorted out. All I do is take a cocktail stick and rub it against the paint that I don't want to be on the canopy to take it off. So as I said, just little splodges where the paints came through. I probably just didn't press down firmly enough on the masking tape. So I'm just taking my cocktail stick and rubbing the area where I want to remove the paint. And now I can fit the canopy. The canopy fits nicely. It just places on this little ridge for it to sit on. If you're going to be using normal cement for this, it's possible without fogging up your canopy. I use normal cement on parts of it. For the edges, I used some crystal clear cement. And the difference with the crystal clear and the normal is the crystal clear won't fume up your canopy. It takes a lot longer to dry though, but it can also act as a filler if your canopy doesn't quite fit. It'll develop a film so that you can paint over it if you wish, or you can leave it as a clear part. That's what it's solely designed for. If you use normal cement, the key here is when you place it on the area, give it a minute or so to let the fumes evaporate before you place the canopy on. Think of it as a time bond glue that way. You want to place it on, let the fumes evaporate, then place your canopy on. And that's how you don't fog up your canopy. Otherwise, your canopy will fog up with the glue fumes. So it's now time to place on the rest of the decals. There's not that many decals to go in actual fact. Depending on what build you're doing, you don't really have to put in all the tiny little stencils. As I said, these decals were overly thick in my opinion, so I didn't put all the stencils on because they just didn't sit right. So I didn't want to play about with it too much, hence why I only put on a few of them. All the main decals are on though. The decal on the wing was this one, the flag for the wing. It was a right pain in the backside to do this one here. It kept on lifting up and it took ages to get it to lie flat. But that's the nature of these things. And this is where I'll finish off the build and of course end part 6. All there's left to do is a little bit of varnishing. May put a little bit of weathering in. maybe not. I'll say how it goes. But all intents and purposes, that is the build complete. So the next part will be the final reveal. So if you haven't done so already, why don't you check out the channel for my other builds? If you subscribe to the channel, make sure you hit that notification bell. That way you'll be kept up to date not only with this build, but all my future builds as well, of course. Hit that like button. Don't be afraid to leave a comment. And of course you can share the video. But for now, thank you all very much for watching. Bye bye.